Hi, it's Matt from Stellify Software here. I wanted to put a video together to show you what we've been working on in relation to our MCP server tools. And I thought a good way to do this would be just to put together a simple prompt, feed it into Claude, and watch it interface with the tools and see what it comes up with. I've put the prompt that you're looking at now beneath the video in the comments. We're just going to ask Claude to create a simple notes app with CRUD on the server and just a simple UI just to display the cards. So the first thing it does, this is quite important, this step, it goes and gets the current project. This includes all sorts of useful information, technical information about capabilities, libraries that are included in the particular project, so that it can make decisions, architectural decisions and development decisions based off the back of that information. You'll notice at the top there, it's just flashed off the screen, there was a create resources call. That will create the model, the migration, the controller, some scaffolding there, so it doesn't have to waste tokens constructing all the code from scratch. And then the other file it will have created will be the JavaScript file. Or in our case, in actual fact, I would imagine, it's using Vue, so it's identified the fact that Vue is available, the front-end framework. So yeah, it's going to create that file, I would imagine, and start hooking up the methods, the statements that are required. So yeah, where are we now? We're approaching the kind of 2-minute mark. It's adding code to statements, and it just keeps working its way through, making the API calls, and behind the scenes, it's storing all of this code as JSON in our databases. And what happens with Stellify, if you don't already know, if you're not familiar, is that this JSON will be ultimately assembled back into source files so that you can export or deploy this as code to GitHub or your server or whatever it is you're wanting to do with the code. Ultimately, you can just download it as a zip to your desktop. I'll show you that at the very end of the process. So we've just hit the 2-minute 30 mark. It's adding method bodies. There's not a lot of detail about exactly which methods it's creating here. I'd imagine that these are, because it scaffolded the resources, I'd imagine these methods are part of the Vue component. So yeah, this takes a little bit of time, potentially because it's having to think about the server methods that were created, and it'll be ensuring that the API calls that are made from the Vue component align with the methods that are available in the API. Yeah, so it's marking those methods as async, and the ones that are going to await a response from the server. We're up to 3 minutes 30. I'd imagine all in all, on the previous tests that I've run, I'd imagine this is going to take in the region of about 6 minutes to complete. It's moving on to the template. It'll create the HTML template and attach it to a dummy route so that you can access it in the editor. So it doesn't want to create the template on the route that we'll be attaching the Vue component to. You can see there it's feeding in the HTML, and that's how that particular method works, rather than creating each element individually, which would be a lot of API calls. You just feed in the HTML and it will be parsed on the server and stored as JSON. So and this just allows, in a more kind of wider view of Stellify, this allows for surgical edits to take place. So you can see all these references that are created. AI is really good at memorizing these references and keeping track of the references and what they relate to. And that's what makes it so powerful. It can just go back and quite easily think, oh, well, I need to alter that element. And it can track the IDs, and it can be very surgical in its identification of the element and the update that it makes. It's a lot more robust than working just with text files as it would ordinarily do on other systems. So we're creating the app.js entry file. That's needed for the bundler, and it looks like the last thing it needs to do once it's created that file, which shouldn't take very long. It's just a few statements. There it is. Yep, create this web route with the mount point. So this is going to be the page that actually displays the component. It's created a div there with an ID of app. So that's the element that we'll mount the Vue component on to. And we're approaching, I think my prediction of 6 minutes is looking fairly good. Just coming up with this. There we are. Little bit before the 6 minutes mark. So it's telling us the routes it's set up, telling us what's happened on the front end, and the features that exist in the interface and the files that have been created. So yeah, that wasn't too bad, was it? 6 minutes to create all of that. If we switch across to the editor now and take a little look at the files. So there's no caching taken place, so there's a little bit of lag. When we're opening these files, the model didn't need any method in the body. It's just an empty shell. If we have a look at the note controller, you should see this the CRUD methods that are required. Yep, so there we have it. We have the index will fetch the notes, store, save the notes, etc. I've got the migration. I'll need to run this migration in order to demo the app. Let me just run the method that will create the notes table in the database that I'm attached to, I'm connected to. And there it is. That's the app that AI has created, the interface. Let's type a note into the inputs. Right, we'll add the note, and there it is. So it looks like it's given us the facility to edit the note. We should be able to delete the note successfully, and everything's working as you would expect, or as I would expect, because I've been creating this stuff over the past month and making sure that it's very robust. Before I talk a little bit more about that, let's just go back to what I mentioned earlier about exporting or syncing this project to your GitHub account. That's where you would do all that kind of stuff here on this screen. Yeah, you've got the download a zip or connect to GitHub account there. You can select your repo, sync it across. So yeah, I was just talking about Stellify and how confident you can be that when you prompt it, it's going to do pretty much what you expect it to do. I wouldn't necessarily advocate just trying to do a kind of one prompt job like we've done here. That's not how I personally work, but that was a good way of demonstrating how safe it is, how it prevents AI from hallucinating and going off track, as it tends to do in certain instances when you're giving it lots of things to think about all at once. On other platforms, you can really challenge AI with Stellify. Not necessarily, as I say, I wouldn't necessarily advocate doing that. I think if I was building, when I do build with Stellify, I'm very much a more granular. I chunk tasks up, and I try to be very clear with AI about what I expect it to generate for me. But yeah, you do have those guardrails with Stellify. It's like you can go anywhere on the road. You can drive anywhere, but you've got, if you want to come off the road, that's quite difficult. It's got those guardrails that keeps AI doing the things that it needs to be doing. So if you haven't already, come and sign up at stellisoft.com/register and create some apps for me, because I always enjoy seeing what people have created. Share some links, and I look forward to see what you're building.